crafty people, this is Ellen with EGI Designs. Thanks so much for stopping by. Today I'm making a birthday card for my older daughter with some rub-ons and a postage die. These rub-ons are from Stamperia, and the floral ones are called Roses from the Venice City of Art collection, and the super awesome cat ones are from the Alter Ego collection and are called Be Happy Lady Cat, and they are so funny. I cut out the rub-ons I wanted and matched their sizes to the windows on the postage die. I chose a happy birthday sentiment from the Simon Says Stamp Vintage Bloom stamp set as the font matched the feel of the card. This postage die is from Not Too Shabby and is called EZ Wonder Die number 3. This die is awesome as it cuts out the postage part and all the rectangles to put on top of the postage die all in one pass. It even has a banner die to add a sentiment onto. I also have the EZ Wonder number 3 add-on die set, which cuts stitched rectangles that you can add to the postage die cut. You can use these on their own or add them as a matting layer to the pieces cut from the EZ Wonder die. This set includes a word die and a shadow layer, an airplane die, 2 stitched airplane trails, an envelope die, a cancellation die, and a really cool postage edge die that allows you to make any size postage shape. You can do rectangle, square, triangle, whatever you need. For the postage background, I wanted to use this vintage looking vellum piece from Stamps by Me called Whimsical Chapters, but it is too thin on its own to use. So I decided to use my Xyron Creative Station to add adhesive on the back of the vellum piece. Because the adhesive is edge to edge, it is not visible through the vellum. I'll show you how to use the Xyron coming up. This card is going to be an A2 size, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 when folded. So 8 1/2 by 5 1/2 scored at 4 1/4. The card base is made out of Gina K Designs Ivory cardstock. Here I show you how to use the Xyron machine. You place what you want adhesive onto the platform and then crank the handle. This feeds the paper through to the other side, where you slide the blade across to cut off the piece. I like to burnish the edges of the paper or die cut with a bone folder as it helps the adhesive stick all the way to the edges. Then you peel the clear sheet off and then peel the paper or die cut off of the backing paper. When I laid the vellum on the ivory cardstock piece, I tried to roll the piece on to avoid air bubbles underneath. And just smooth it out as I go. I only needed to cut out the postage half of the die, so I tried to figure out which way I wanted the postage die to lay on the paper and which side I wanted that long rectangle on. I used the back of the die to make sure that I had the pieces where I wanted them. After cutting out the postage piece, I used a foam mat from Sizzix and ran my pokey tool along the dots to help them punch out. This is a very easy way to get the postage dots out without having to go one by one by one by one. Next, I used the stitch rectangles from the add-on set to lay out the rub-ons on a piece of the ivory cardstock. I wanted to make sure the rub-ons had enough room in between each of them to die cut them apart. I added the rub-ons to the cardstock and then ran the cardstock through my die cut machine to transfer the images onto the paper. This was the first time I tried this trick, and I was surprised at how well it worked. I had just a couple of spots that I needed to go over with my bone folder to complete the image. I like to use the shiny side of the backing paper to go over the rub-on images to make sure the edges are smoothed down. Next, I lined up the dies on the images and used my Sizzix Switch to cut them out, plus an extra small rectangle for the sentiment spot. Then I laid out the images on the postage die to make sure I liked the layout. Next, I wanted to add ink to all the edges of the card pieces. I love my drawer cabinet from Stampin' Storage to hold all of my ink cubes for easy access. I'll add a video up top and in the description of a tour of my ink cabinet so you can check that out if you're interested. I'm using Vintage Photo Distress ink to make all the pieces have that vintage look. As I'm going through and inking all the pieces, I wanted to let you know that I will list all of the card measurements in the description box and on my blog. I will also list all the products I used, and I do have affiliate links. I encourage you to use what you have in your stash, but if anything piqued your interest today, that info will be there for you. I'm just going through and finishing up all of the inking. Because the vellum is kind of a slick surface, I used 1/2 inch double-sided tape on the backs of all of the postage pieces. I burnished all the tape down with a bone folder as it makes it easier to take the backing paper off, and then I used my vinyl weeding tool to take the tape backers off. And then I stuck all the rectangles on their spots. Then I used the Altenew foam tape in the 1 inch and 1/4 inch width, but the loft is 1/16, so it's very low loft. I took the backing paper off and then added some stamp glue to the foam for some wiggle room, and then added the pushes panel to the Altenew Parchment cardstock mat. Then I used my tape runner to attach the panel to the card base. And here I am just getting the card all assembled. And it looks so vintagey. I love the way that it looks. Alright, now for the sentiment. After using anti-static powder tool on the paper, I stamped the Happy Birthday from the Vintage Blooms set onto an ivory piece using VersaFine Clair Pine Cone ink. And then I will do this twice to make sure that it is a great stamped image. The VersaFine Clair is always awesome, even with just one stamping, but because I was heat embossing, I wanted to make sure I did it twice. So after I stamp this one, I'm going to wait a second and get everything ready to go. Get my catch paper, get my clear embossing. So then I poured clear embossing powder over the top. And if you miss any spots, you can just go back and put a little bit more wherever you missed. And then I funneled the powder back into the container. You want to make sure everything is shut before you start heat embossing. Then I use a Swiffer to clean up my catch paper and my work surface. I'm using my heat tool to melt that powder, and it turns into a beautiful shiny raised image. And then for the sentiment, I cut out the sentiment, and then I also cut out 2 of the sentiment dies in the parchment. And then I glued one sticking up out the top and one sticking out underneath, which made kind of a faux shadow layer, which really helps the Happy Birthday stick off, like pop off of the background. Otherwise it would just be ivory on ivory on ivory. And here is our completed card. And now onto the inside. I used a large floral stamp from Vintage Blooms and a sentiment from Simon Says Stamp Loving Thoughts stamp set. And I just love the way it came out. And then I made a coordinating envelope on my 123 punch board. And I'll link to my envelope playlist above and in the description. And I also have other videos on decorating envelopes and the insides of cards, and I can link those as well. And then on the envelope, I used the Loving Thoughts and Vintage Bloom stamp sets to decorate the front and the back. I really love that large floral. I love to add a protective layer on the card front. So what I usually do is I cut a piece of cardstock to the same size as the card, and then use an embossing folder that kind of matches the occasion. With this being a birthday card, I use the Simon Says Stamp Birthday Sentiments embossing folder. And this helps to make it easier to put the card in the envelope, and it also smooths out the card front if there are embellishments on there, which helps with the mailing. I will link to my card making playlist and my birthday playlist at the end of the video, so if you need any more card ideas or inspiration, that will be there for you. And if you found value in today's video, I would love it if you could hit that like or subscribe button and join my crafty community. We'd love to have you. Check me out over on Pinterest, Facebook, and my blog at egidesigns.com. Till next time, like, subscribe, and all that jazz, and have an amazing day. Bye-bye.
Here are a couple more videos I thought you might like. Thanks so much for watching.